Hope you're all well. Welcome to our active shooter webinar, which is part of the Indiana State Library's Ask the Expert series. My name is Beth Yates. I'm the Southeast Regional Coordinator here at the State Library, and I will be the host and question moderator for you today. But our presenter this morning is Trooper Nick Kleenkammer, did I say that right? Of the Indiana State Police. So a couple of housekeeping items real quick before we get started. The first one is that if you have any questions today, just type it in the chat box on the upper left-hand side of the screen. I will be watching that and we'll get your question to Nick as soon as there's a good opportunity. He said if you have a question in the middle of the training, he would rather you ask it then so he can get it answered before you forget what your question was. So don't hesitate to ask your questions as we go. And then there should also be a time near the end for questions too. And then the other item of business is LEUs. This session is officially supposed to be about 1.5 hours, so you'll get 2 LEUs for today, and those will go out sometime in the next month. I think Suzanne Walker will be sending them out. I know she's very busy, but she will get to them ASAP. Don't worry though if you don't get them, tomorrow or today. All right, you ready, Nick?
I am.
Okay, then let's get started.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for having me here today. We're going to review this slide presentation with everyone. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to send that question as soon as you can, and we'll try to get that directed and answered for you. This is the unarmed response to an active shooter. This is a quick disclaimer. As you know, the slide presentation is a free guide to assist you in active shooter prevention and response programs. It's not a complete and comprehensive, like if X, Y, or it happens, then A, B, you should do. This is just to help prepare you, and it's no guarantee of anything. There are no absolutes in this. These are some of our project objectives. We're going to define the active shooter, examine the current trends, data, early warning indicators, recognizing the phases of the active shooter, briefly discuss responsibilities of management and the individual, and response options and the strategies of the Indiana State Police model. What you see here is the State Police definition of an active shooter. One or more subjects who participate in a random or systematic shooting spree demonstrating their intent to continuously inflict death or serious bodily injury on other persons or persons. For the purpose of this policy, the term active shooter may include the use of a variety of weapons, including but not limited to firearms, knives, explosives, etc. Last month, there was an active shooter incident in Japan at a mental health facility in which the suspect used knives to inflict as much injury as he could. So we always assume active shooter involves a firearm, which most of them do. However, it can include a multitude of other weapons. So what you're seeing here is an incident frequency chart. It's from 2000 to 2013. The newest one from the FBI has not come out yet, but as you can see, the events are increasing in nature as the years have passed. When the new current data comes out for 2014 to, I believe, 2020 is when the next section will come out. Unfortunately, we're going to see a higher increases. So they are out there and they are happening. It's the same time frame here. This is the location categories. Your biggest section is commerce, and commerce is businesses that are open to traffic. And that basically puts the whole library system in that block. Businesses are designed to let people in and be open and welcome arms, and you want people to come to the library. Unfortunately, we don't want these type of people to come to the library. Second big block is education in your schools, and then government, open spaces, and it goes down even further from there. When the next section comes out, we're going to be anticipating that the education block is actually going to decrease, and that is because, as you know, schools and colleges are basically on lockdown now, like banks are, and that's just to protect the kids. So we anticipate that seeing going down, but the commerce one going up. These are some consistent early warning indicators of active shooters. They are not by any means absolute, but these are the ones that we've consistently seen. Does it mean that just if you see one person with one of these is an active shooter? No. Every time, we use this as an example, every time I get depression every 2 weeks when I get my paycheck. So it's just one of those things, you get there, but you move on. People are depressed for all sorts of reasons, and most people bounce back. Manifestation of emotional mental health issues, experience of significant loss, indications of planning, accumulation of weapons, and communication of intent to peers. Mental health issues are by far our greatest growing category. There are a multitude of mental health issues out there, and some even that we aren't even aware of yet. You combine that with the depression or the experience of a significant loss, and a significant loss could be a divorce, death of a child, death of a spouse, loss of financial, you're losing your job, your financial plan, taking care of your family. All those are significant losses, and that, with the other things, can lead that person to become an active shooter. Case in point, where we had the shooter situation down in Seymour at the Cummings plant, that by definition was not an active shooter situation. He just went in and did harm to his boss and then took his own life. However, he was depressed. He experienced significant loss. He lost his job. He went back to his former employer and made contact with his boss and took his life. Indications of planning. We've consistently seen that they will talk about it. They will put it out there that they are doing these things, and it won't be like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to go down, or I'm thinking about doing it next week. It's just like, I think I could do that, or it comes up in conversation. The accumulation of weapons are people who usually don't have weapons or have no interest in weapons, and then all of a sudden they start asking you, are you a hunter? I heard you like guns. I'm thinking about getting a gun. And then they start accumulating those slowly but surely. And the last one is the communication of intent to the peers. Coworkers, family members, they will all listen to it indirectly. The question is, do we pick up on it? Before the attack, the active shooters often plan in plain sight. Often they share their intent with others by cryptic means. Active shooters are opportunistic. An active shooter event transitions into a random attack, and during the attack, the attacker takes the soft targets. Often they share their intent with others in cryptic means. A couple years ago, there was a school shooting at a school in Ohio. The student who was the shooter the day before told his friends, do not go to the assembly tomorrow at the flagpole. And they asked him why. He's like, well, you just don't need to go, bad things are going to happen. Some of them went, and those are the ones that were shot, and the other ones who did not go obviously were not injured. So they're telling it, they're sharing their intent. We just have to listen to the clues. Active shooters are opportunistic. They flow like water. They find the path of least resistance. They're not going to, and when we get into this later on, when we talk about the escape and run and the lockdown and hide and the fight part of it, and we talk about barricading and hiding and things of that nature. Active shooters are not going to take the time to go through barricades or locked doors. They're opportunistic. They want to get and do as much harm as possible in the quickest amount of time. Active shooter events transition to a random attack. Case in point, going back to the Seymour incident, he just went in and did his harm and he ended it. However, he could have easily transitioned into a random attack and continued killing former coworkers. So sometimes they have that plan, others they transition to that random attack where like, well, I'm here, I've already killed one person, I know I'm going to jail, or I know I'm going to die, I'm just going to take out as many people as I can. During the attack, the attacker, like I said earlier, takes the soft targets, and that's why most focus on schools, because they're soft targets. Kids are defenseless, they're not going to fight back. These are the 5 stages of the active shooter. fantasy, planning, preparation, approach, and implementation. We all fantasize in our lifetimes, and it's perfectly normal and natural. When the Mega Millions was up to several hundred millions of dollars, I fantasized, what would I do if I won that money, or how quick could I change my phone number to keep my friends and family from finding out. But then somebody won, and the fantasy goes away. Same thing here. People will fantasize about doing these deadly deeds, but they don't come back from that. It continuously stays on their mind. Then we get into the planning stage and like, well, you know what? I think about it all the time. How can I do that? What can I do? Or where can I go and do this? And they start planning that. And they say, okay, well, if I go on a particular date and time, I know most people are going to be around. Most people will be here. I can do this. So now they've gone to that fantasy stage of just thinking about it. Now they're into that planning stage, and they start putting their planning down, and they start thinking about it in more detail. Then they become into the preparation stage. Now they're accumulating those weapons. They're accumulating their implosive devices if they choose to make them. So they've thought about it. They're planning it. They've gotten their plan going. Now they're preparing, and then they will do the approach. They're going to maybe do a test run. Case in point, the incident in Newtown, Connecticut at Sandy Hook Elementary. The day before the incident, the shooter was caught on video driving in front of the school at 9 a.m. He was practicing his approach. He was figuring out, okay, this is my best time. And then they go to the implementation stage, and that's where the event occurs. We want to focus on the planning and the preparation and the approach part. It's going to be very hard to identify an active shooter in a fantasy stage. And obviously the implementation part, it's too late. Now we have to react to that. We want to be more on the proactive side. We're going to discuss two types of preparedness: organizational and individual preparedness. Organizational preparedness can be defined as what management can do to assist you in being prepared by providing programs, training, drills, and practice. Individual preparedness can be viewed as preparing yourself to recognize, analyze, internalize, and respond to threats. So this is going to be the management's responsibility. And they're already providing you some training because we're here today and we're discussing this. So we deal with physical security, control access to facility, provide hardware to keep the staff safe, conduct threat assessments, develop safety plans, develop an intervention team, train and involve staff in all aspects of the safety program, and maintain open lines of communication. Now we all understand that libraries are designed to be open to the public, and you want members of your community to come into your facility. Does that necessarily mean that they have to come into every single door to your facility? You may want to limit public access. Provide hardware to keep the staff safe, and that could be either from locks on the doors electronically or through a key, things of that nature. Conduct a threat assessment. If an active shooter, and the threat assessment is basically sitting down with members of your staff and saying, okay, if an active shooter situation happened in our facility, how are we going to deal with that? What is going to be our responsibilities? What are we going to do? Where are we most vulnerable at? And then when you have those threats and you understand them, then you develop a safety plan to counteract what you deem as a threat. And in doing that, that's what your intervention team is going to be doing. And your intervention team is going to be having that threat assessment, developing those safety plans. And your intervention team, like I said, can be everybody from the upper management to your custodial staff, because the custodial staff knows the building better than anyone. They're in and out. They know all the nicks and crevices of the building. You need to have somebody from every level. And you want to maintain that open communication. When you have that intervention team meeting, you sit down, the titles are checked at the door, everybody is on the same level. Everybody needs to communicate openly and willingly. And then when you have your safety plan, the intervention team needs to go out and train and involve the staff at all aspects of the safety plan. The plan is no good if not everyone is on board. If one member of your staff says, I'm not going to worry about that, or it's not going to happen, then your plan is not going to work. And that's where that open line of communication needs to come into. You need to communicate that to them, that everybody has to be on board with this. Excuse me. This is the responsibility of the individual to be prepared. Individual or situational awareness occurs when you are totally aware of what is going on around you. If you have a healthy degree of mistrust or suspicion, you'll be better prepared to deal with the threats in your environment. This doesn't mean that every time you see somebody walking in the door that's coming in to check out a book or use one of your see one of your programs or what have you, that you think that they have 15 weapons on them and they're willing to blow up the building and things of that nature. We're not saying that. That's not a healthy degree of mistrust. A healthy degree of mistrust is basically how law enforcement officers are all the time. When people come up to us and we're talking to them, we look at their hands. And I may not even make eye contact. I don't know, making eye contact with them, but I'm looking, I'm scanning. What's behind me? Who's coming up around me? How many people am I in a group? Am I outnumbered? Those are just looking around, seeing what's going around with me. Have a healthy degree of mistrust. Individual or situational awareness, the individual preparedness. The key is your ability in a state of heightened awareness of your surroundings. This state will assist you in recognizing the presence of threats, analyzing and internalizing the presence of the threat, and then we're going to talk about the last one here in just a second. Recognizing the presence of threats, analyzing and internalizing the presence of the threat. So every time someone comes into the building, if you have your front desk staff who are by the front door, they should be looking at them, greeting them, maybe make contact with them. Hey, how are you today? Get their train of thought out of what they're thinking of. Can I help you? Those things, because the active shooter is going to have that plan in his head. He's going to have it rehearsed. He's planned it. He's done his approach. He's coming to implement it. If you walk in and they walk in and you say, hey, how are you today? Can I help you? Oh, wait a minute. I wasn't prepared for that. Now you've taken time off of their plan. You've thrown them out of whack. And that's just recognizing, and it may even be a threat. They may say, oh, I'm fine. How are you today? But again, it gets that presence that you're there, that you're involved. The big question is, when we get into the run, hide, and fight part, is this last bullet point. Overcoming your reluctance to take lethal action against another human being. From a child in preschool, you're taught and told, don't hit anybody, don't push anybody. Your parents will tell you that time and time again, don't hit anybody, don't push anybody, you can't do that. You get up and you're an adult now, and now you're taught by the law it's illegal to hit somebody, it's illegal to push somebody, it's illegal to do harm against somebody. So your entire life we've been telling you that not to do this, not to do this. In this situation, we are telling you it is absolutely okay. You have to take lethal action. That person who's coming in to do this active shooter to your business, could be your house, it could be anywhere. You could be at the mall and an active shooter situation could come in to play. You have to overcome that reluctance to take lethal action. They are coming to take your life. You need to take theirs. And some people have no problem with that. They understand that. And other people have come up and told me, I can't do that. I'm not prepared. I just can't do that. And we understand that. And if you can't, then you can't. We're not telling you that you have to take lethal action. We're encouraging it because, again, they are here to take your life. So don't think that if you can't do it, you're wrong. You haven't done anything. No, you know yourself better than anybody else. In the moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. And that is a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, one of our past presidents. And in an active shooter situation, this totally comes into play. We have to be prepared for active shooter situations. If we're not, when that moment comes, we are not going to be prepared. And we're going to either do the wrong thing or we're going to do the worst thing and do nothing. An example of this is the Aurora, Colorado movie theater situation. In the moment of decision, some people made the decision to do the right thing, and they got up and they ran. And some of them ran right by the shooter, and he couldn't focus long enough to take action against them. The worst thing other people did was to do nothing, and all they did was hide under the seat in a long row of movie seats where there's no cover, there's no protection, and that's where the shooter did his most damage. The best thing you can do is the right thing, the next best thing is the wrong thing, but the worst thing is to do nothing. And that's where we're going to help you get into that mindset. A terrorist can be an active shooter, but not all active shooters are true terrorists. Remember, the term active shooter may include the use of a variety of weapons, but not firearms, knives, clubs, explosives. The extremists we face today not only wish to bring about a change of our life, but to bend our way of life to distort the view of human rights, societal structure, as well as the most fundamental right to free worship. Traditional sect extremists. These individuals are typically driven by a perverse interpretation and application of religious belief system. Their goal is to convert the world into their religious ideologies. The mythology often selected to cleanse the non-believers from earth as death. And when we get into these extremists and terrorists, it is religious based from what we've seen for the most part. And again, it's our way of thinking, and if not, you do not need to be here, and we need to kill you. The homegrown radicalized terrorist is what we have seen here in the United States. We're not seeing terrorists from the Middle East coming over here. They're more trying to get the homegrown radicalized terrorists. We had that individual in Brownsburg, Indiana. He became a homegrown radicalized, and obviously we discovered his plan, and he was taken into custody. These are disenfranchised individuals who are seeking answers to their lot in life. Typically, they are dissatisfied with the society in which they live. The greater dissatisfaction, the more receptive individuals are to radicalization. As the radicalization process becomes more entrenched, the new recruit becomes more determined to bring about the belief systems of the mentor by any means necessary. And a lot of these homegrown radicalized people are getting their information off the internet. They're listening to them, they're getting into chat rooms, they're discussing it back and forth, and those people are giving them the ideas or telling them where to go and how to prepare and how to implement their plan. You have a psychopathic terrorist, domestic cause terrorists, and governmental terrorists. Prevention and preparation for a terrorist event. Schools, theaters, arenas, nightclubs, and places where large groups gather socially are soft and high-value targets. And what we're seeing that in Paris or in Nice, both in France. We're seeing that in Orlando. They are looking for those soft, high-value targets. It's imperative that we focus on an all-hazards approach. We must view the threats facing our society from a broad-based perspective. We must understand that assault with a firearm is only one option that terrorists may elect to use, but they're not limited to firearms. And these are just some more bullet points on the prevention and consideration for a terrorist event. And being involved in a terroristic event or an active shooter situation, the percentage that you will actually ever be involved in one is very, very low. We're just giving you the information so you can better educate yourself on that. And also, when you get done with this, again, all this information is this PowerPoint, like you're seeing it today, is available. It's on the State Police website. You can take it and show your family members, other members of your community. Your branch or library might want to have its own program. You can pull this up and go over it with them and discuss it. That's totally fine and encouraged. Again, these are some of the things that the terrorists or active shooters may try to do. They may test your security. They may move into a secure area and attempt to see how long before your personnel responds. They may take a practice run to determine the strength of your security and your communications in your response team. So when you have that safety plan implemented and someone's trying to come in, they're trying to get more information. Hey, where does this locked door go? Or what's behind here? Is this open to the public back here? That may be something that they're trying to do. They're trying to test your security. Again, you want to redirect them away and keep them to the open areas which are accessible for the public. Some people may be trying to do fundraising. They may come in and ask if you want to gather from that, and that's going to be a tough pick because there may be a legitimate agency or organization who wants to come into your organization and try to elicit activities where they can raise funds. It may be a warning sign, it may be not, but it may be something you take, put in the back of your head. You may deal with those suspicious or out of places behavior. Sometimes people walk in and they're just they don't seem to fit the mold of your typical person that comes to your facility. Training and educating all members of the community. When I say community, your staff. Be mindful of individuals that appear to be conducting surveillance, gathering information on current security measures, demonstrating unusual detailed interest in an individual or individual's routine, or simply conducting themselves in a way that makes you uncomfortable. And that's where that heightened sense of awareness comes in. If they've gotten to that point where they're making you uncomfortable, that's a warning sign that we maybe want to go talk to them. Do you need any help? How can I help you? Are you okay? Prevention through the securing the perimeter of your campus, your business, or government building is an effective way to increase the security of your school grounds. Adding fencing, gates, concrete barriers, etc. may prove an effective in segregating the campus from the surrounding environment. However, with libraries, people may take that the wrong way. So you're going to have to figure the happy medium and just maybe have the locked doors or different signage that encourages people to just, let them know that this area is for employees only, not say do not enter, but it's going to be how you word it and how you guide that your public around in your facility. We're not going to install blast-proof barriers. This is more for government buildings and so forth of that nature. Your entryway, this may be something that you can do. You maybe have the facility have electronic locks, so if your receptionist or a manager in the office that's not in the public, be able to secure the building, lock it down to keep others from coming into the building if you're dealing with a difficult situation. And that could be an active shooter situation. That could be a member of the public who's coming in and he's not, he gets into an argument about a book or a program, and they're frustrated and they need to be dealt with. So you may want to put that facility on lockdown and secure that. That way, nobody else is coming into that until you dealt with that situation. Visible law enforcement. No one measure is more effective than having a sworn, armed, and academy-certified law enforcement officer. The more visibility, the greater the impact will be. This sends the message to them that they're not a soft target. Now, there obviously is a cost there to have an off-duty police officer there every time your building is open. However, you may want to invite members of your local police department or sheriff's department or even troopers that are assigned to your area to come in, say, hey, we have a secure office for you to do your paperwork. As we all know, there's a lot of things going on with law enforcement right now. The officers and deputies and troopers are used to doing paperwork in their car. However, that's not a safe spot as much as anymore. So if you, the library, said, hey, come on in. We have a room here. It's secure. It's in the back. You can come in here, use your room, or use your room as much as you want, get your paperwork done. And that does two things. It puts that marked police car in your parking lot. Members of your community that are in the library see that officer walking in and out. So they know, okay, well, there's a police officer here. They can take a little deeper breath. And the people that may be in that, the active shooter that are planning that active shooter, they see that and like, well, maybe this is not the place where I want to come, because chances are there's going to be a police officer walking in here. And it helps us out. So overall, it's a win-win for everybody.
Can I ask, so if you do invite an officer in to do his paperwork, he needs to be in a private place so that he can get his paperwork done, probably, instead of being visible?
And he or she may choose to stay in a room that is visible. It may be a closed door with windows so he can see out to see what's going on and keep an eye on the open area. But if you're in the general open area, chances are they're not going to sit there, because now the officer is going to be even looking around even more, because everybody coming in. So if he's in the back, and again, you may have a conference room or a program room that has windows. There's a desk there. He can not even lock the door, but close the door, or he may even keep the door open, but somewhere it's a little bit segregated, so that way they can focus on their work. But like I said, the most part, the people are going to focus on is the part where the officer is walking through the door, walking through the library, or the lobby of the library, where most of your people are going to be. They're going to see that marked car in the parking lot, and that's what they're going to be focusing on. They're not going to be focusing on where is that officer specifically sitting, and that may be something that you as your individual libraries, when the officer comes in, and discuss that with them. Hey, do you want to sit here in the open? And they may choose to do that, or they may say, no, I'd like to sit somewhere further back, or they may, no, I want to be completely out of view. And that's to be a case-by-case basis.
That makes sense. Okay.
The Indiana State Police Model Prevention is the lockdown, hide, escape, run, or fight. It's a solid starting point for examining the potential response options in a terrorist attack. And we're classified as a terrorist attack. It's just an active shooter. It's the same thing. Prevention, we want to increase the security of our environment and facilities. We want to educate members of the community, and we want visible law enforcement on the ground. Understand the response steps in the ISP model. The escape, run, lockdown, hide, or fight may be utilized in any sequence. We want to limit contact with the shooter, and that goes into those three titles: the escape and the run, the lockdown, the hide, or the fight. Lockdown is your first. You may very well have to determine that lockdown is your first option, and the best option until you are able to escape via a secure path to a safe area. This model may be utilized in any sequence or combination. The sequence will be determined by your circumstances. So everyone hears the run, hide, fight, and that is three separate components. They may flow in that particular order, or you may have to go into lockdown, fight, and then escape. You may have to go right to the fight. The sequence, the situation that you are in or is occurring at your establishment will dictate which one you have to do first. It's not always going to be first I run, then I hide, then I fight. It's free-flowing and constantly changing. Response, we want to limit our contact with the shooter. We want to make ourselves a difficult target. Typically, terrorists that attack schools, theaters, stadiums, restaurants, and large gathering places do not intend to take hostages. Bargaining with terrorists is not a high-reward strategy. So we don't want to, they're here, the active shooter is here to do as much harm in the shortest amount of time. The people that have survived active shooter situations and as witnesses have said that they had heard others, trying to bargain with them, telling them don't do this, begging and pleading, and it never worked out for those individuals. They are there to do harm as much as possible in the quickest amount of time. Like I said, they are here to create as much carnage as possible. Most often, in an effort to create as much carnage as possible, they commit suicide and take others with them. The Purdue shooting at the university, the subject went into the school building, found the teacher's assistant, shot and killed him, and walked out and waited for the police. By definition, that was an active shooter. He did not take his suicide at that time, and he didn't take others with him. Sandy Hook, Columbine, those people did as much carnage as possible, and they both committed suicide in both instances. They are trying to do as much damage as possible. Escape is an excellent option, but we do not want to leave a place of security for an unknown. If we move, we want to take a safe path to a secure area, and you want to have a plan on how you want to escape. If you have offices in the back, and most administrators and others are out of sight from the general public, if you hear sounds of violence coming in the lobby, do we want to run? If your escape plan takes you out there, and we don't know where exactly the sounds of violence is, but you hear it, we don't want to escape. We don't want to run to that unknown. It's not safe. So maybe your best option would be to lock down and hide. You want to limit that contact with the shooter. If you run to the sounds of violence or where you think the sounds of violence are, you may run right into that shooter. The active shooter is not going to stay in one place for very long. They're constantly moving. They're constantly finding new targets. As soon as he takes care of the first set of targets, he's going to go find others. He's going to seek the path of least resistance, like water. Like I said earlier, they're going to keep moving. They may stop shooting. They may be reloading. They may be looking for other people, so they're not shooting anymore. And if you run and try to escape without having a safe, predetermined plan where you know you can get to it, you may run into that shooter. Lockdown and hide is an option if you're in a secure area. Remember, you want to limit contact with the shooter. The basics of an active shooter event: the shooter's actions and your response. The shooter arrives and seeks victims. He may be initially targeting a specific individual or group of individuals. Case in point, the San Bernardino shooting in California. He targeted a specific group of individuals after he found his first victim. He was looking for somebody. They were having a Christmas party. He went in, he found the people he wanted to do harm to. He did that, and then he targeted the rest of the group. Regardless, the event typically involves in more of a random attack. So they thought, well, we've already done harm to one person or several group of people. We're just going to keep going until we're done. Individual actions. Once the event begins, your goal must be to separate and secure yourself from the threat. Time saves lives. Your actions and options may be defined as escape, run, lockdown, hide, or fight. It must be stressed that specific actions must be taken when exercising one of those options. And this is where we're going to get into, we're going to break them down even more so here. Escape or run. Escape is the option in the event you have to secure path to a predetermined or confined secure area. Lockdown or hide. If a secure path or site is not a certainty, lockdown may be the best option. Fight. When fight with imminent danger, take lethal action. It's not, and your fight may be to take lethal action and do physical harm to them to save your own life, to save others' lives. If you're one of those people that we talked about earlier, that they know themselves and they can't take that lethal action, their fight may be just to punch them in the arm and push them and try to run. And if that's the fight that you have as you, that's the best you can do, then do that. But remember, they are there to take lethal action. So we're going to break down the escape run part of this. First, you need to have a safe path and destination with an alternate in mind. Escaping is one of your best options if you have a safe path to a secure site. Do not attempt to evacuate if you do not know where the threat is located. Leaving a secure place for an unknown option may take you directly into the threat. Leave your possessions. Warn others, but do not slow your escape. And like I said earlier, they may stop shooting. They may be looking for people. They may be reloading. So you think the threat is over, they've moved on, and then you leave your safe, secure office because you've locked down, and now we're running or we're escaping, and we turn the corner, and there the threat is right there. The escape run part is going to be taking place in your open areas, your lobbies, your parking lots, things of that nature, where it's more open. You want to get out of that where that threat is located. There may not be good places to lock down and hide in the stacks of library books or underneath the desk. They can be found. You can be seen. So that may be in that particular area. Your best option may be to get into that escape and to run. Run to that, and that's where your staff that is at the front doors, they may have to sound the alarm and they may have to run, but they should have that plan of where they're going to run to. I need to get back to the employee only area where we have that secure, safe room, and I need to get there as fast as I can. And that may be part of your safety plan that we talked about earlier. Leave your possessions and warn others, but do not slow your escape. If you are going to escape and run, leave your belongings behind. Encourage others to go with you. If they say no, that they're not going, do not drag them. Do not waste any more time. If your escape and your run, and that's what you want to do, and that's your plan, then do that. Because time. We want to lock down, we want to hide, we want to escape as fast as possible. They're all going to slow down you. As you evacuate, understand the concepts of concealment and cover. Concealment should hide you, while significant or sufficient cover may stop a bullet. Concealment would be big, thick walls, concrete walls. It could be a very big, thick desk. Books provide excellent cover. Thick books will stop or slow down bullets significantly. They may not stop a bullet, but they will definitely slow it down. And that's the difference between the cover and concealment. If you flip a desk over, the desk may hide you, may provide cover for you, but it may not stop bullets. If you are going to escape and run, you want to quickly check the corners and intersections and rooms before you move through them or into them. We don't want to run around a corner blindsided trying to escape, because that threat, the active shooter, is on the move. He's, like I said earlier, the path of least resistance. They're flowing like water. If we run around a corner without checking it very quickly, you may run right into them. And after you have your safety plans developed, the best thing to do is to practice your options. You have to practice that escaping, the running. How quickly can I escape the part where I'm at? More than likely, I'm going to be a majority of my day, and get to that safe area. Lock down and hide. Remember, you have been empowered to sound the alarm. And in case I didn't say this earlier, every employee should have the ability to sound the alarm and warn everybody else, whether that's just yelling shooter, gunman, having an alarm button, anything that your facility has designated when you make that threat assessment and that safety plan. It shouldn't be, we learned in other ones doing with certain schools when we first started this, we said, okay, we asked one of the teachers, you're in your room and a gunman walks by. He doesn't do anything, he's just walking by with a gun, and he walks past your classroom. What do you do? Well, the teacher said, well, I would close the door, get my children away from the door, and I would call the office. Okay, fairly decent. So we went to the next person. Well, who's going to answer your call? And the secretary asked. And put her hand up, and she said, oh, well, I would probably take that call. And she's like, okay, well, what would you do? You know there's a gunman in the school. What would you do? And her response was, well, I would go find the principal or the assistant principal and tell them. And we were all taken back by that, because now that's even more time where this gunman, you know you have a gunman in your building, that takes more and more time. Why couldn't the secretary sound the alarm to notify the whole school, call 911? And since then, those procedures and policies have been changed to reflect that. Everybody, even if you're in from the person at the front desk to the custodial staff to the administrators, everybody has that power to sound that alarm. So the alarm has gone off. Now we don't think we can make it out safely. So we're going to lock down and we're going to hide. So we want to quickly lock and secure the door. You want to put as much furniture as possible in the doorway to create a secure barricade. You want to put as much cover between you and the threat as possible. You want to stay out of the line of sight or fire, and do not make yourself an easy target. You want to stay on your feet and ready to move. Stay on your feet and ready to move. Again, that goes back to the Aurora theater shooting. The people that hid crawled under the chairs, and they could not easily move. They couldn't get up when the threat came to them. They were stuck. So you want to stay on our feet. We have no documentation yet of an active shooter trying to fight their way through a locked door. We have no documentation of an active shooter ever trying to get through a locked door with furniture and everything else behind it to create that barricade. They're flowing like water, least resistance. They're not going to take their time to fight through a locked door, fight through a barricade to get into that room. They know they have time. They only have a certain amount of time from the time the alarm starts. They know that law enforcement is on the way. So they want to do as much harm as they can in the shortest amount of time.
Can I ask another quick question? So when you talk about sounding the alarm, that could be a variety of things, I imagine. I imagine a lot of libraries do not have like a bank, where you press a button and...
Correct.
And some do. If they don't, what else do you recommend other than just straight calling the police? Could they pull their fire alarm?
No,
Okay.
no. And we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Because what happens, go back to your school days, when you were in school and the fire alarm sounded, what happened?
Everybody goes out to the hall.
Everybody goes out into the public access. So now, basically, you've brought everybody to that active shooter.
Okay.
So the fire alarm is definitely not the option to take.
Good point.
So it could be somebody just yelling.
Okay.
It could be what we have other facilities. They went and got those air horn cans.
Oh.
Just a quick boop, and they hear it. So somebody in the next office, they sound it. Then they sound. Next thing you know, all you hear is these air horns going down the building, down the hallway. So people hear that. Yeah. They sound it. They lock down. They start hiding.
That's a great
things of that nature. You may have a PA system and have a generic code. It may not even have a code word. You may just say shooter in the building. Code red. But if you are going to have a code word, you want to make it very plain. You don't want to get into like code 15 Delta Bravo X-ray. Because in a state of panic, people aren't going to remember that.
Right.
You want to keep it very simple. And then, most part, we've even gotten away from the code words and like that. Just basically tell them what it is. They know. So tell everybody else. There's a shooter in the building. Shooter in the building. Keep it simple. But avoid the fire alarm. Yeah.
Good tip. Thank you.
You want to silence your cell phone and pager. If you can silence your cell phone and leave an open line to 911, that's awesome. Turn off any source of noise and remain quiet. Radios or televisions. Again, if they're walking by, the door's there. Your door may be locked. You may be hiding. But if he hears the radio or the television, chances are he's going to think there may be somebody in the building. He may not try to breach that door, but he or she may decide to shoot a couple rounds into that room just to see what he can do. So you want to silence that as a member. Also, if the TV and the radio is on, that's providing background noise for you to prevent you from hearing outside what's going on. So if you can turn it off, great. Again, if you don't have the time or you don't think you have the time, don't worry about it. Because you remember, at this point in time, we need to lock down and secure as fast as we can. Once you do that, you want to get your barricade up. You want to cover hiding it behind large items, cabinets, desks, or solid walls is best. And same thing here. Practice your option to lock down. And that may be an after-hours drill. After your facility is closed, you have your employees and say, hey, today we're going to take 10 extra minutes and we're going to do a lockdown drill. And time it. Okay, I'm the active shooter. I'm walking in. Go. How quick can we sound the alarm? How quick can we lock down the facility? How quick can I barricade myself? How quick overall can the building get locked down? Test those, because in the moment of time, if you don't practice this, it's going to be too late. You have to practice these options. All of these options have to be practiced. And it doesn't have to be weekly. It could be monthly. It could be quarterly. It could be semi-annually. But the more you practice, the better you are when if this event ever does come to your facility, you will be better prepared for it. This is the most difficult one, and we talked about this earlier, your option to fight. Obviously, a lot of businesses, and I'm assuming the libraries, don't allow library staff to carry firearms in their place of employment. But you can obtain improvised weapons. Everyone has plenty of improvised weapons where they're at. Scissors, pens, letter openers, fire extinguishers. A fire extinguisher is a great improvised weapon. Not only does it shoot a good 20 feet, it makes a great hammer because it's a totally medical canister, and you can do a lot of harm with that. We've had people go get hornet spray and keep it in their office. Again, it shoots 25, 30 feet accurately, and I can only imagine with all the warnings on those canisters that you don't want to get that sprayed in your eyes or in your face. But at this point, who cares? These people are here to do lethal harm to you. You are here to do lethal harm to them. So there are plenty. So think about that. We've had teachers. One teacher in particular stands out. She went to Lowe's and purchased 30 bricks and brought them to her class. And each one of her students got a brick. And she said today, well, we're going to do an art project. I want you to paint your brick. You paint it as how you want it and what have you. So the students painted their bricks. And she said, okay, now go put your brick somewhere in the room so you know where it's at. So the kids thought, okay, that's great. I have to paint a brick and it's mine and I get to paint it how I want it to. Her mindset was that once she locks down her room and the kids are hidden, she's going to have her kids get their bricks. Anyone walks into that room, they're getting hit with 30 bricks. So again, those are improvised weapons. It doesn't have to be a firearm. There's plenty of things in your establishment. If you look around your office, look around your facility, you're going to find plenty of improvised weapons. Go ahead.
We had a commenter said that a good idea that campus police gave us for double doors that have to be locked by a custodian who would not be available in an active shooter emergency was to loop a belt around the door.
That is correct. You can use that. If you have the doors that have the hinges, the big Y hinges on top of the doors, when they're closed, if you take your belt around that and loop that, the door will not open as well. So there is a device out there. It's called the Shark. It is a piece of metal that's specifically shaped for that Y, and you can take it and slide it right over, and that door won't open. We're also told that a section of PVC pipe will work. You can slide that tube of pipe right over that hinge, and the door is inoperable. Really? for those metal hydraulic hinges. So there are options in that, and like I said, the belt around that is a quick, easy one. If you can do it, absolutely, yes. If you must fight, you should be positioned out of the line of sight or fire with as much cover as possible. You should take care of a position. You should take care to position yourself to take advantage of the attacker by bringing him into your circle of violence. And I'm going to explain circle of violence. Some people may know it, some people may not. If we were in a conference room, the 30 of us, and it was 50 feet by 30 feet in area, and I was in one corner of the room in my uniform with all my accessories, and you were in your normal workday attire in the opposite corner of the room. Ask yourself, could you do any harm to me in that room at that moment of time? The answer should be no, because there's no way you can cross this room and get to me without me doing something with any of my accessories. Now we're going to flip roles. We're in the same room. I'm in the corner. You're in the opposite corner of this 30-foot by 50-foot room. am I in your circle of violence? And the answer would be yes, because I have a firearm, and that gun can go, those bullets can go anywhere in that room. So you are in my circle of violence. So as the active shooter comes in with that firearm or that weapon, you are in his circle of violence. He is not in yours. And that's what we talk about. We need to bring him into your circle of violence. And your circle of violence is basically with that that knife or that pen or those scissors. And that's as far as your arm length is. That's your circle of violence. But now, if we're able to get that fire extinguisher or that Hornet spray, now your circle of violence is grown by that 25, 30 feet. So you don't have to be as close. But if you are going to be, you need to bring him in. So when we say, think of your room that you're going to be locked down and hiding in, and maybe you don't get the door locked in time. Maybe you think it's locked and it's not. Or maybe the door didn't close completely and they get into your room. We need to get into their circle of violence. So we need to stay hidden, but as close near that door, so in case they do come in, that we can attack. We can get them into your circle of violence.
Suzanne at the State Library wants to know, can they shoot the lock out if you're in a locked room?
Yeah. Yes.
You see it in the movies. Is
right.
it realistic?
Right. Is it realistic? Yes. But again, the overall, we have never had a documented case where an active shooter shot through the door to the lock to get into a room. They just check the lock.
Too much effort.
Too much effort. They're flowing like the water. They want to get in, do as much harm as possible. They want to find those people that are in that open area, that are hiding, that are crouched down behind the table, where they can just come in and do as much harm as they want. It's going to take time. Case in point, the Sandy Hook incident. The shooter had done his plan, and he knew that the front doors, the school automatically locked down at 9 a.m. Automatically, the locks engage at 9 a.m. so nobody can get in. On the day of that incident, he arrived at 9:03. He was late. For whatever reason, he got there late. The doors were locked. He shot his way into the school. He shot through the windows. Again, that took time. It took effort. Did he get in? Yes. But again, that provided more time for that school to lock down and implement their plan, to get the alarm, to hide, to lock down, and so forth. So they're going to take that time. But once they're inside, and again, that was the only one that we've seen where they actually had to shoot their way into that. But inside, we have not had any incidents where they're trying to get through those locked doors. We're just giving you the what ifs. And again, because you may be in that option to run and escape, and you come around that corner, and there they are. So now the lockdown hide option is totally off. So now we have to transition from escape, run to fight, and that's where we want to get them into our circle of violence. So that's what we're talking about in these certain things. Okay. But we want to be prepared for that option to fight. Again, we talked about this earlier. You must be ready to take lethal action. You are capable of doing more if you're prepared to do so. And like I said earlier, some people say, I can't do that, I can't do that. A majority of us are parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles. Think of this person doing harm to your child, to your family member. I know no mother who would not go into a lethal mode for someone doing harm to their child. Same thing. They are coming to do lethal action to you. You have to bring that. And again, we have to practice your option to fight. And we're not saying that you need to go take a karate class or become a cage fighter or anything like that. You need to practice. What's my options here? What are my improvised weapons? What can I do? How am I going to do it? What am I going to fight? Am I going to try to hit him in the leg? Am I going to try to hit him in the face? Practice those options. How quick can I lock down? How quick can I get to my improvised weapons and be prepared to use that? This is a long video. It's not a long video. It's a good video. We're not going to play it. We're going to let you look at it at your own time. It's from the city of Houston. The state police was in the preparation stage for making a video when the city of Houston put this out, and it's an excellent video. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel.
We can try to include that link when we send out LEUs.
Okay. But and again, it is on the state police website, but it is an excellent video. This is a brief thing. If it does turn into a hostage situation, we have not had any events other than the Orlando one where it did turn into a hostage situation. That was the first one. Most of them, again, do the most carnage or harm that they can do, and then they take their lives. So this is just some information in case it does get that way or turn into a hostage situation. De-escalating the situation. Prepare yourself mentally to take action. Recommendations if rescue is initiated. You may be able to talk to them and say, hey, do you really want to do this? It may work, it may not. Every situation is different. There's by no means a set thing of how to do that. Okay. This is some other important information that goes along with the run, hide, and fight. On law enforcement's arrival, we have averaged out, it's about 3 to 5 minutes from the time the alarm is sounded to the first time a law enforcement officer arrives at the scene. So the good news is now you hear the sirens, you know the police are coming, you survived the event. A lot of these events are survivable. Most people survive active shooter events. Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown had roughly 500 people in school that day. 26 people lost their lives. 26 out of 500 people, a vast majority, survived the event. These are survivable. Law enforcement arrives. We may arrive in uniform. Just think how you typically see your local law enforcement, or your state police, your deputy sheriffs. Some may arrive in plain clothes. Administrators, detectives, they may have a suit and tie on, have their gun on their waist, and have their badge on their belt. And some may arrive in tactical gear. That's your typical SWAT officer that you see on the movies or you may see on TV, on the news. They're going to have all that gear on. However, you may have, once the call goes out, there's an active shooter event going out, you're going to have on-duty officers, you're going to have off-duty officers responding. They may arrive in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. My option, what my plan is, I should say, if that is, I'm in that predicament, I am grabbing my state trooper hat and I'm putting it on. Because I'm going to stand out. I'm going to stand out to you and say, well, if I see a guy in a t-shirt and shorts with a rifle, but he's got a state police hat on, I don't know if an active shooter is actually going to go get that. That's going to be a police officer. I may grab my bright neon traffic vest that says state police on it. I want to identify myself. But I also want to identify to the other officers that are coming into the scene with their adrenaline pumping, with their rifles that are going to be in uniform, that are easily recognizable. That's to prevent me from getting hurt as well. The first arriving officers will bypass the wounded. Yes, we do care about you. Yes, we will come help you, but not at this time. The first officers on scene are arriving to stop the threat. They are trying to make contact with the gunman or gunmen and try to neutralize the threat to stop more people from getting injured or killed. So we will bypass you. Other officers will come in, medical personnel will come in once the scene is secure, but we will get you out. We will be forceful. So if you're grabbing our ankles or grabbing our feet while we're going by you, we will push you away. Our mission at that point is to get in and end the violence. We will immediately make our identity known. We want you to know that the police are arrived. We want the bad guys to know that the police are arrived and their time is up. Their clock is ended. They know that now there are other people coming that are trained that also have guns. So we want to let you know you survived it. You've gotten through those 3 to 5 minutes. Help is here. These two bullet points here are very and highly important to you. Do not reach out to arriving law enforcement. We understand you're scared. We understand you're upset. You've been traumatized. You've gone through a traumatic event. But when you get up and you come reaching out to us, trying to give us a hug, at that point, we may not know who the active shooter is. We may not have a good description. We may not even have an accurate description. If you come up to us and you're reaching out to grab us, our mindset at that point is you're trying to do harm to us. And again, that goes back to that. We will be forceful with you, and you will go to the ground. We're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to protect ourselves and protect you. So don't reach out to us. We're going to give you commands. Follow those commands. The next biggest one here is keep your hands empty and clearly visible. Not only do we want to see your hands, we want to see your fingers. Most people are going to have their cell phones in their hand. Most cell phones are black. If I'm down a hallway and I'm at one end and you're at the other, and you come down the hallway and you have in your hand, I can see your hands, but in your hand there's something black. Is it a cell phone? Is it a weapon? The officers have milliseconds to determine whether or not that's a weapon or not, and take appropriate action. Everyone is going to be on high alert. Everyone's going to have a lot of adrenaline pumping. Keep those hands and fingers visible, because at the end of a long hallway, even a 50-foot hallway, you come up and you're showing me your hands and there's something dark in your hand. By the time I snap my fingers, I have to make that determination whether or not that's a weapon or not and take appropriate action. So for your sake, for our sake, for everyone involved, hands and fingers clearly visible.
Do you have any best practices if there are staff, what Joe Dillon said, unpopular opinion here, if patrons can legally carry guns, it makes no sense that an employee could not legally carry. That's up to each individual library, obviously, to set those policies.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any best practices if there is a staff member who has a gun, when the police arrive, how they should proceed?
Well, if you need to secure that weapon,
right?
And you tell that law enforcement officer, hey, I'm not the shooter, but I do have my weapon on me. And of course, before the law enforcement arrives and they're legal to carry a firearm and they have their permit and everything like that, and they're defending themselves, by all means, we understand that. There's nothing wrong with that. But when law enforcement comes now, because the only description we may have is white male.
Right.
And if you're a white male and we come around that corner and we see that weapon, it's going to be a situation that we don't want to be in, because that could turn into unfortunate in a multitude of ways. Secure that weapon. Let the officers know that, hey, I have a weapon. I'm just telling you, here's my hands, here's my fingers. That officer will make that determination how they want to proceed. If they say, okay, they may ask you, okay, where is the weapon? Again, he's asking the question. He wants an answer. He doesn't want you to go get that weapon.
Right.
When we ask you, where's your weapon? And, we deal with this a lot on traffic stops with people have weapons on their persons or in their car. We ask, do you have any weapons? Yeah. And then they go and reach for it. And we're like, no. No. Put your hands back on the wheel. Where's the weapon? Oh, it's in the glove box, or it's in the center console, or it's under the seat, or it's here on my hip. Okay. Is it holstered? And then they go right back to the weapon. No. We want to know the questions. Answer the question. Keep your hands and fingers visible. Let the officer decide, yes, okay, we're going to secure the gun. We're not going to keep your guns. We're not going to, we may take possession of them so we know they're secure, but you will get it back. But definitely, and that means either laying on it or putting it back in your holster, something, or if you hey, look, and tell the officer, especially if they're coming from down the hallway, if you want to leave it on the ground and put your hands up with the fingers and say, hey, I have a gun, it's right here on the ground, and let them deal with that situationally. But again, hands and fingers. We get a lot of that, especially with the cell phones. People are coming up, and when we're in person in this presentation, we demonstrate that, how quick that cell phone, and by then, and again, that officer has to make that determination whether or not that's a lethal encounter or not.
It's second nature for people to have their
Sure, and cell phones are glued to people's
It's really
hands,
good to remember.
or glued to people's ears. You know, people will go out food for a week if they can keep their cell phone with them. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable, the cell phones. If you are able to, be prepared to supply arriving law enforcement information on the shooter. Again, the information we get may be sketchy at best. You know, height, weight, race, sex. Did he have a rifle, a shotgun, a handgun? We don't need specific that it was a Glock 17 9mm black and he had 15 magazines on him. No, if you can say a black handgun, that's all. He had a rifle. Everyone knows what the big military rifles looking are like these days. He had a shotgun, things of that nature. Which way did he go? How long did he go? And be prepared to keep replying that information because more officers are going to be coming in. On our state police website, and this may be good for people near everyone's phone, there's a 911 emergency information sheet. And that is basically to assist you if you are safe and able to call us. The dispatchers are going to have that. They're going to be asking you these questions. And you may not be able to answer all of them. That's okay. You may be able to answer 4 of them. You may be able to answer 3 of them. You may be able to answer 1. If that's all you can do, that's all you can do. But that's the information that they're going to want so they can relay it to the law enforcement officers that are coming to the scene. And that's on the website. We talked about this earlier, that threat assessment. An effective security plan should begin with the business environment threat assessment. The assessment should be a comprehensive and ongoing examination of all aspects of the business environment. So every business is different. Every library is different. Everybody has a different set of rules and procedures and policies that they go by. But sit down and with your individual place of a business and think, how are we most vulnerable? What's our biggest threat? How do we prevent that biggest threat? And that's when we get into those safety plans. And then after you have that threat assessment and you have that safety team together and you're going over it, and if you want to reach out to the state police and have a trooper come in or a deputy sheriff or a police officer in your local town or city come in and say, hey, this is our plan for an active shooter event. Do you see anything here? Can we improve on this? Are there any aspects here that we need to think about for the police officers coming in? And I know we at the state police will be more than glad to go over, and we sit down with several safety teams throughout the year in different organizations and schools, and they would say, hey, we had an incident, our plan worked, or we found this out, and now we're changing it. What do you think? So the more you share with that, the better off it can be. But yeah, you have to have that. What's our biggest threats? How do we counteract those threats? And that's where the threat assessment and the safety team come into play. Empower your staff to participate in a corporate safety plan. Management should make it clear to staff that they're expected to participate in securing the building, maintaining a secured perimeter, monitoring visitor traffic, and being vigilant. Reinforce that the expectation that the staff will sound the alarm if they see something of concern. Everybody needs to participate in the plan. We did an active shooter situation presentation at a school, and it was supposed to be unlocked, and it was. We walked up to one of the doors, and the door was propped up with a water bottle, and we walked right in. So a member of the staff, for convenience purposes, they went out on their smoke break. Instead of taking their pass key to open the door, they propped it up with a water bottle. We never saw them. They never saw us. We walked right in. Yeah, and we were talking about it, and the staff was like, what? We walked right in.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have a lockdown facility, all the employees need to lock it down. And the smokers, unfortunately, are the biggest ones who lax in this. They're like, well, I'm right here by the door. Okay, well, that doesn't do you any good if the active shooter walks up, shoots you with a rifle from 100 yards out, and then your door's still propped open. Mm-hmm. Lock the door, keep it secure. Everybody can sound the alarm if they see something of concern. And it may not have to be something of concern. It could be something as a disgruntled customer. Does that mean we have to go into full-blown lockdown and hide and get our improvised weapons together? No, but we need to sound the alarm. Hey, we're dealing with a situation here at the front desk. So who deals with those people? Maybe I need help. Maybe so another coworker goes, well, okay, so now there's two people here. And you may have some businesses, they have a code word for that where they don't think they can handle the situation. So the second coworker comes up and says, do you need any help? And say, well, Betty, can you go get Steve? Well, that second coworker's name is not Betty, and there's no Steve. But they know that's the code that I need to go get somebody to call the police. Get help here, coming here. Hey, we're dealing with this. We don't think we can handle it. It's growing. It's getting more escalated. Yeah. We don't want it to get into that physical confrontation. So, and like I said, does that mean we have to go into a full implementation here of your plan? No. But how do we deal with the little threats? Those little, and those things, that may be further down on your threat assessment. How do we deal with these disgruntled people? How do we deal with a terminated employee? Do we have a secure perimeter? Do we? Is it by code? Is it by the electronic ones where we just do the badges up to the sensor? Did we deactivate that badge? What's our plan if they come back? Do we immediately call 911? Has he been told, hey, sorry, it didn't work out here, but you're no longer welcome back here in our facility? So let them know. If you do come back, we are going to have you arrested for trespassing. So they're already been warned. You can document that. So when they get here and they're having that argument and somebody calls the police showed up, he was already told on such and such date, here it is, when he was terminated, that they weren't allowed back in the building. Here he is. So, but reinforce that. Everybody can sound the alarm, and like I said, sometimes it can be de-escalated, sometimes it can't. But have that in that threat assessment. Include staff in planning and revising the plan. Include staff in conducting drills in partnership with law enforcement, have a debriefing process to share the information. And again, when that law enforcement officer, you get out in your community and say, hey, officer or deputy or trooper, here's our room for you if you want to come into your reports and so forth, and then sit down with them for a couple minutes and say, hey, we have our active shooter plan. Can you take a few minutes to go over it with us and review it? This is what our plans are. And if they don't, call the state police. We will more than gladly, we do that all over the state. We will sit down with you. We will conduct drills with you. We'll implement it. We'll watch it. We'll see how you guys react, and we'll say, okay, we see things here, or did you think of this? And we've been places that they've done drills, and we're watching. We're like, is there anything different that we can do? And we're like, absolutely not. You guys nailed it. So because the more you practice it, it will definitely help you and help us. And that is our presentation. So if anyone has any questions about anything on topic or slightly off topic, I will be happy to answer them for you.
Oh, we've got multiple attendees typing.
Okay.
So as soon as one comes through, let's see. Suzanne says, thank you for coming to do the webinar.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And so does Kathy. She says, that is awesome. Thanks so much. Connie says, much appreciate information.
And again, if I went too fast or I didn't answer anything specifically, go to the state police website. All this presentation is on there. If you have any questions about it, contact the local state police post. I work at the Indianapolis post, so anywhere in the surrounding counties of Indianapolis, you can contact me or Sergeant Prine. He's the point of contact here in the Indianapolis district. We are more than welcome to come to your business, your library branch, and go over it again or answer any questions that you have or can think of at a later date and time. Sometimes when I go to training, I get this information and I'm like, I don't have any questions. And then the more I think about it, like about an hour and a half later, I'm like, that's the question I should have asked. And then I go and I make contact with the people. So we're more than welcome to do that.
Suzanne wants to know, do you think there's any benefit to doing an active shooter training with patrons? She says, I'm thinking no. I know they do these trainings at schools, but our public librarians may not be conducive, or public libraries may not be conducive to surprise drills for this.
We do active shooter drills at schools, but we do not do them with the kids. There are a lot of parents out there that want us to do it with the kids, and there's a lot of parents that don't want to traumatize the kids to that. Same thing goes with the patrons. Some may be like, what the heck is going on? I'm
Yeah.
never coming back to this library again. If
That's
somebody
what
comes in with
Suzanne says, wouldn't people just freak out?
and more than likely they would, but I would think you'd have to give careful consideration to your clientele.
Mhm.
I would, however, recommend that you do that with your staff, either before you open or after you close, and get that down first before you start including your patrons, because you may get that one person who, unbeknownst to you, has some type of blood pressure or heart condition, and next thing you know, you go into this big blown out thing, and something happens. And again, I'm playing worst case, what if here. But I think you focus on your staff, focus on the staff, get that part down before you start bringing members of the public in. And that's why we don't do it with the kids. We don't want to get to that point. Now, some schools, they may decide to do that without the law enforcement presence, to say, okay, we're locking down, we're hiding. And some schools may do that. That's going to be an individual school district thing. I encourage the students to be taught that, to lock down, and hide. Obviously not the fight part. In the lower grades and the higher grades, yes, where the students and your clientele can do that, and they understand what's going on. But again, I meet a lot of parents like, no, I don't want to expose my child to that.
Yeah.
So it's a case by case basis.
Okay. Suzanne says maybe for a staff day only, and I think that's a great idea. That's a good plan for any libraries out there who do staff days.
Absolutely, and if we need to come to your place of establishment on your staff day and represent this all over again, we're more than welcome to do it. That's not a problem at all. And we can break it down, certain more aspects on how each individual organization wants us to come back. If he wants to focus just more on the run, hide, fight, or the safety plans, we can do that as well. But we're definitely here to help.
Okay, let's see. There was just some discussion. One person said it could be good practice for regular patrons, but Suzanne re-emphasized that you don't know the health issues or other issues.
Anything like that.
And
again, that's your organization's decision. We're not, the state police is not going to say, yes, you need to do it, or no, you don't need to do it that way. I just say give it careful consideration and focus on just getting your staff on that plan and see how well you can implement it. You may, and that even comes down to just seeing one day, walking around the building and seeing how easy it is for someone to get into your building.
That's a great idea.
And say, hey, I got in. This door here was propped open.
Are there entrances or exits, for instance, that maybe don't need to be unlocked all the time, as long as you can get out of them?
Correct. Yes. And most business doors, exterior doors, can be exit only. You don't have to necessarily get into those doors. And if they are entry doors, how do we secure them? Do we secure them with a code lock? Do we secure them with the electronic lock? Again, those may be cost prohibitive. Maybe just need to lock it and be done with it with a key. And focus where you want your general public to come in. And if that means only bringing them in the front main entrance, or one entrance to the front and one entrance to the side, then so be it. You as that organization make that determination. Where's our biggest threat going to come from? How can we eliminate that? And if that means, hey, these doors here on the side, they used to be able to come in this way, we're changing our procedures. Yeah, you don't have to tell them this is why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Say we've had a change in procedures. Now these are exit only doors.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot come in this way. And again, if you do that, and you're stuck here in a little bit of a catch-22, because you are open to the business and you do want people to come in. What do you do if somebody's walking out and somebody's walking in? How do we correct that? Do we have a staff member there and say, I'm sorry, sir, you need to go this way, or you redirect them to the main entrance? Or you may greet them, and you may have that individual awareness to say, okay, this person is okay, we're not a threat, we're okay, and you let them proceed. Again, that's a case-by-case and location basis.
I've also heard you can have your local law enforcement come in sometimes, and sometimes they're willing to do like a check for you to walk around with you. And see where
the state police does that. We do the business checks. We do the active shooter plans. If you have the administrator or one of the staff members who's in charge of that safety team, and they want to contact us and say, hey, we're going to do, the administrator and I know, we're the only ones who know the employees, and we're going to do an active shooter drill. Can you be here with us to watch it and see how we do things? And we can time it, and then we can time, okay, what's our response? And we'll have a stopwatch. We'll say we're going to give you 4 minutes. That's the time that they have to deal with from us before we get here. We do that in schools as well. Sometimes the teachers know, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you may tell your staff, we're going to do an active shooter situation or shooter drill at 6 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, everybody should be locking down, getting into their hiding positions, getting their improvised weapons in case they need them, or running to that safe location after they check to make sure there's nobody in the hallways. And then time them. How well did we do it? We did it in 3 minutes. Okay. Next month, we're going to redo it again, but we want to get it down to 2 minutes. How fast can we get this done, but safely? If it doesn't, it's no good to get it down to a minute if half the doors are unlocked and half the doors are somewhat secure, but not all secure. So, and that goes back to that practicing. But yeah, obviously you can call your local law enforcement, and if they don't, call the state police. We'll be more than happy to.
Great. We don't seem to have any more questions, so
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Trooper Clean Gamer.
Thank you.
And thank you all for attending. And again, sometime this month, we should get those LEUs out to you. Have a good afternoon. Bye.